Hi, I'm Kyle Bornheimer from Casual. You might recognize me, or Worst Week, Bachelorette. She's out of my league, Breaking Bad, and I'm here on Mr. Media.
I'm Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview. You can see, hear, and read more than 1,000 of my previous celebrity interviews at MrMedia.com. That's MRmedia.com. Subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Apple News, Google Play, Mixcloud, or Stitcher, and follow me on Twitter or Facebook. On today's show, I'll talk to actor Kyle Bornheimer, who you may have seen most recently playing gay in single episodes of Modern Family and the revival of Will and Grace, or playing extremely straight in 2 seasons of Casual on Hulu. He also played a pivotal role in the first season of Marvel's Agent Carter. This is Kyle's 3rd visit to Mr. Media. Stick around. On this show, all roads lead back to comedic actor Kyle Bornheimer. Part of that, I admit, is that I often want to be the character he plays on TV, from the lovable bumbler way back on Worst Week, and the sex addict on the Hulu series Casual, to being a rogue secret agent getting manhandled by Hayley Atwell on Marvel's Agent Carter. Less so the gay man he played a month ago on 2 completely different sitcoms, Modern Family and the revival of Will and Grace. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. And according to IMDb, Bornheimer has a new series in pre-production, Door Number 1, with another actor with ties to Mr. Media, Sean McKinney, who is becoming the Black Kyle Bornheimer. I don't know if he knows that or not yet. Sean is currently appearing on 3 series, Vice Principals, Great News on NBC, and Snowfall on FXX.
Wow, those are all great shows, too.
Yeah, that guy has gone from being a very quiet career to, in the last year and a half, he's really exploded. Good guy.
Yeah.
Now, in real life, I somehow became connected via social media with members of Bornheimer's actual family, with whom I share maybe some political views above and beyond our love of all things Kyle. Now, this is Kyle's 3rd appearance on Mr. Media, but first via video. In addition to talking about his latest projects, I hope to talk to him about some broader things, including his women co-stars and his family. I might even have a surprise or 2 for Kyle.
Great.
Kyle Bornheimer, welcome back to Mr. Media.
Thank you. That sounds like a very "this is your life" type of intro.
There might be an element or 2 of that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, but let's start, Kyle. Let's start with your career and kind of go from there. You started this TV season. This is the fall of 2017 for people who may watch this in the future. You had 2 very high-profile, I want to say cameos, but they're more than cameos. They played out, I think, within a week of each other. You were Mitchell's Unrequited Love on ABC's Modern Family, and I correct me if I get this wrong, but I think you were also one of Jack's Unrequited Loves on Will and Grace.
I'm pretty sure we've requited.
You requited, sure. Okay.
I think Jack and he have. I don't think there's any necessarily unrequitedness there.
Okay. I couldn't remember, and I didn't take notes when I watched. But we turned it on. It's like, oh my God, it's Kyle again. So I'm curious about the calls from your agent that indicated you had these 2 big shows to do, but you're going to play gay in both shows.
Yeah, the whether the character is gay or straight or bi or anything else is never really in and of itself any different distinction than any other character trait. So that was never going to be. It was just the quality of the show, the quality of the writing, the quality of the character, and if we were interested in doing it, obviously. Will and Grace, I would have never known I would have the chance to be on because I don't think any of us knew it was coming back until recently. Modern Family's always been a show that I was hoping I would get a chance to be on. The fact that they were on the same week, that was pure happenstance. And I actually had forgotten that Modern Family, they shot a lot of that episode actually in Tahoe. It was based on the eclipse, the whole premise. And then when they got back, they filmed my stuff on the lot and cut it in. So I actually was kind of surprised. I went in later in the schedule, so I thought the episode was going to be deeper into the series, into the season. But it was kind of neat to know I was on the first episode of both Modern Family and Will and Grace in the same week. It's always, that's always a nice sort of kid from Mishawaka looking up and be like, oh well, I'm on TV twice this week. I don't mind patting myself on the back a little bit there.
Well, yeah, I do wonder, and again, nothing wrong with playing gay, but I do wonder, see, because I look at you, I think of Worst Week and all the other shows. Hulu, obviously, casual. I think, who thinks of this guy to play a gay character? How does that come about?
Well, I mean, I think gladly. I mean, I think luckily we're at a point where we're now seeing everyone's, there's no stereotype for what someone, how they behave based on their sexuality or anything. So I think I'm pretty sure in both those cases there was no question of how I behave in other roles or how I come off in terms of them casting me in that role. I think hopefully they wanted someone that was they perceived as a good actor that could handle that kind of comedy, and they wanted me on their show. So I doubt nowadays that there's much of a conversation about will he come off correctly. I think you unless it's written in a certain style, like your character trait is this physically or verbally or something like that. I think you're usually going in playing yourself to a certain degree in terms of your style and mannerisms and things.
Well, and on I guess we can give it away now because it's aired. I mean, on Modern Family, Mitchell thinks that all these years that he had made a pass at a guy who turned out to be straight, and then of course he finds out that was not the case.
Well, that was the hook on Will and Grace was pretty easy. It was a fun role, and was the first episode back after a long break. 8 years. That was fun. Modern Family, like I said, I always wanted to be part of, so that was going to be a no-brainer too. But I was tickled by the bit of that relationship, which is that he thought that he had been rebuffed by a straight man, and that was the reason. And that actually Mitch was like, "Oh, I'm kind of embarrassed for putting him in that situation if I came on too strong." And when he finds out that I'm not only am I gay, but I was gay even before he came on to me, and that he should probably take the rebuff more personally. That was like that really made me laugh. I loved that whole bit, and so being able to play the straight man, as it were, in that scene to Mitchell's neurosis was fun. So often I'm the neurotic one. I love whenever I get the chance to play the straight person on a bit.
Into him.
Oh, it was the best bit. It was like that he was going to apologize for coming on too strong to someone who was very polite in their rebuffing. But when he finds out they were rebuffing him not because I was straight, I was rebuffing him just I wasn't into him personally. I always think that whenever I hear people talk about someone else, like that person was kind of rude to me, or that person, was like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I've had a good experience with that other person, I'm always like, they might have just not liked you personally. I might want to take that more personally. No, that was kind of what really sold me on that part, because I just thought that was a really funny central bit between those two characters.
Now, the other thing I think was interesting is, besides that, in this 1 week, you played a gay character on two really top-rated sitcoms on two different networks. You also played it opposite probably the two best-known gay actors playing gay characters, and I guess I was curious if did either of them have any feedback for you about how you were playing the role, or just anything interesting from that experience?
Well, no, I mean, the interesting thing from the experience with Will and Grace was seeing all four of them sort of hit the ground running in this, as if they'd never missed a beat. I mean, it was really. I got to watch Sean in particular up close, and there's a scene in the hallway where he gets to do all these physical bits and string together all these different thoughts, and I was just sort of marveling at him. I mean, I love just sort of watching all of them kind of get back to work. And like I said, it's as if they had never left. So that was, I had a big smile on my face the whole time filming that. And like I said, Modern Family, already being a fan of that. And I think what might be happening, which is neat, is that, there was between those two shows, which obviously was able to sort of take society to a more enlightened level, or help it take society to a more enlightened level in terms of how we all view each other and our sexuality. Hopefully, we're past the point of having to have all these breakthrough characters. And now it's not uncommon to have several characters, and it's part of the mainstream media or mainstream entertainment now, that you can have a huge cast, and there are several different representations of sexuality and characters that espouse and live those views.
And did I read this correctly? Had you actually been on the original Will and Grace?
Yeah, one of my very first jobs, actually, 13 years ago, maybe not that long, 11 years ago, was a one line as a waiter in a very funny episode of Will and Grace. And I wasn't sure if the producers remembered that, and I was actually kind of afraid to tell them. So I was like, "I'm sure they know," and I won't say anything. They don't need to hear from me, in case they got nervous that they shouldn't bring someone back. But I think the storyline is that waiter then became a Secret Service. He went to Secret Service school or whatever they do. I didn't do my research on that. And became Receivers Detail.
And you know what? Now that you just said that, the whole episode came back to me. I completely remember now.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I completely remember about you and Sean's character. Right, he's the Secret Service agent. I mean, you were the Secret Service agent, and we find out that you guys had this thing, and everybody's just kind of in shock. Yeah, right. It was great. It was great. I'm sorry that I forgot that until just this moment. Now, the other end of the spectrum that you played very recently was on Hulu, and are you coming back to the next season of Casual?
I mean, Hulu is famous for kind of sometimes you don't know. I mean, actually, what's interesting about Hulu is the whole metrics of ratings and stuff at a lot of the streaming services. They picked up the third season, I think, before the second season even started streaming. So they've been like a wonderful partner for Casual. This year, I'm not always the first to know, so I'm not quite sure. I know this last season was really popular, and I think what they put the characters through was really interesting. So I am assuming that there's going to be more to tell from that world, and hopefully they'll have me back to help tell it. Yeah.
And Michaela's character was brutal on your character.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, they really turned things around this year for all of them, and really put them through the ringer. And I think there's a lot of surprises for Jack, for my character, and it was fun each week to kind of not know what they were going to reveal about his sex addiction, really, and how that affected her, who was like, she was sort of the tame, taking it slow person the first season, and I was sort of helping awaken something in her. And now that she's fully awake in this past season, I'm kind of shutting it down because I've gone through some turmoil in terms of how I've handled my addiction. So the writers did a really smart job of really setting up some inherent conflict for these characters to have to navigate very messily, I think, this year, which is why it's kind of my favorite. A lot of my favorite stuff was this year because it was wonderfully messy for everybody.
I've seen a lot of actors who rave on and on about Michaela, who you played opposite. Can you tell us anything about her from your experience with working with her?
Well, she's a pleasant, smart, just person to be around, and she's funny as hell, and she's just a good, easy conversationalist, and smart in her views, and wonderful to talk to, and she's obviously a funny actress who's had an opportunity with Casual to show that she is more than that. So anytime you get to continually see someone that you like personally, and then blossom on camera and keep surprising you or showing different colors as a performer, just as a fan of acting, it's fun to watch. So and because I think she has tremendous range. And it starts from this sort of quiet place. It's all the more intriguing because you don't know what you're going to get often, and it's quite unexpected and makes it very easy to act with and very fun and very engaging and like I said, exciting to act with that way.
Now, I'm curious about something, Kyle. We talked a little bit about the range between playing these two gay characters and then the sex addict on Casual. So to me, that seems like a very broad range that casting directors would or directors would be interested in you. But in your mind, what's kind of the range of what you've played, like at one end and then the other end, that's showed your range?
Well, where it starts first is that network sitcom comedy versus Casual, which is more of a what the term now is dramedy, but it's really drama with comedy where you kind of have free range as long as you're being honest within the story and helping the writers convey the story. You're not hitting comedic marks, so to speak. So for me, it was, there's something very freeing about a show like Casual. So more so than the psychology of those three different characters, my approach to them can be quite different. Whereas the sitcom comedy, there is a result that is required, which people have to laugh, and you get 20 minutes and 36 seconds and however many scenes you're in to do that. And so there's a slight different muscle usage, I would say, that I first sort of try to get into order. Whereas something like Casual is it's much more lived in. It's just a different tone of performance that I really find freeing because I can just sort of be honest and take chances. Take chances the other way too, and you have to. But I don't have to necessarily hit particular jokes. I can just let the humanity come through in a way that is either going to be funny or pathetic or anger you or excite you. And it's neat. Even from the audition process for that was very freeing. And it's just different, it's fun to do both, it's fun to go in and really hit comedic marks and challenge myself to be as funny and as physical and as precise as I can be with the comedy. And then to go in and play a character and really live within the mindset of Jack on Casual and let his psychology and his circumstances kind of dictate how he behaves.
Well, the beats are certainly very different from being in a dramedy like Casual too. I know you did a lot of episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Which is more traditional, boom, boom, boom. You got to keep hitting that thing. So yeah, I can see that would be very, very different. Another interesting, I don't know if parallel is the right word, but we talked about how you had, one of your early gigs was Will and Grace, and you came back this season and did a different character. You also were in the original Breaking Bad as a character, and then came back and did Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad, absolutely a drama. Better Call Saul is sort of a dramedy. I mean, it's a bit there's more humor certainly than Breaking Bad, although it's I think Vince Gilligan would probably say it has more drama in it than he originally planned. What was that like to come back and do that character again?
Well, it was fun to know that I couldn't get killed off because it was a prequel. So I'm like, oh man, they can have me back as much as they throw his douchebaggery in. So that was sort of fun and freeing as well. It was also sort of, there's a confidence builder that they've already seen what I've done in Breaking Bad, and they must have liked that, or else they wouldn't have me back. So you have that sense of confidence. I also like doing, whether Breaking Bad, I think you're right. The Better Call Saul is a comedy and a drama. I thought Breaking Bad was always a comedy and a drama. Even that first season, you could tell by what they were doing that there was a heavy dose of comedy, and that show in particular really did a great job of balancing those two. Often I come in also as the sort of comedic relief in a drama, where I'm sort of there to, and it's always written so strongly that I know, hopefully kind of get a good sense of what they want, so I'm free to be the funny one. But it's always grounded in reality. And what I like about drama is it's like I really do put myself in the position of I'm there to help them tell the story. So I can take myself out of it a little bit more. With comedy, I tend to take ownership a little bit more of the performance, and will be a little, for lack of a better word, greedier on how my comedy is portrayed. And because that's, my comic voice is something I value and I try to maintain. But with drama, I love sort of being like, I'm your tool, use me, you know? And it's also helped me in comedy too. So because I've been better at, than allowing that for comedy too. So I can kind of have the best of both worlds. I can kind of exercise my voice, and what I've always wanted to do with comedy, or oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for me to do that one bit that I've always wanted to do, or some physical thing. And then with great writers that are always around on those sets, because they have such amazing writers. Then putting myself in their hands it's freed me up for that as well.
By the way, I'm your tool, use me is what I say to my wife. I didn't know it would ever have any professional connotation.
Many things in life, and it's a meditation technique. Just let go.
I'm going to keep that one in mind.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned in the opening that you have another show in production called Door Number One with Sean McKinney, who has been on the show a couple of times. He was actually the first call-in person to the show. He was in a movie called Nemesis, and his director was on, and he called into the show at a time when I didn't know anybody even knew the number to call into the show.
Right.
So that was weird. And then he popped up again on Vice Principals, and went, wait, I know that guy. And we had him on the show again, and he's doing great. What is Door Number One? What can you tell us about it?
So it's Hulu's entree into the VR space via comedy, which is a unique take on it. And I mean, there's a lot that was new about this, and I'm very excited because it's going to be like Wings, or not the TV show Wings, but like the movie Wings. When everyone was talking about the first time a certain effect was used, or the first time sound or a little bit of color was used. There's a great musical long before sound was really used regularly, where they used all these. We used to watch it one year. I went to film school. But the VR space, we were joking, well, we're going to be known as the first comedy that was in virtual reality. And so Hulu is putting this thing, and it's kind of an anthology series. So each episode is a new cast and new circumstance. And it's the one that I'm in is a high school reunion, where the VR, the person kind of at the center, the one wearing the VR headset, is a character walking around their own high school reunion, making choices. So the Door Number One kind of comes from, you have to make choices. So it's a little bit of a choose your own adventure style thing. And I play this hermit that lives in the basement of this high school that may or may not have been there for the last 10 years, when he was rebuffed at his prom.
Do we know when that may show up?
I'm not sure. I mean, that was a lot of questions we had. I think there's the rollout of it is going to be pretty unique too, because they haven't really sort of launched a VR series. And I just went to a VR theater where you pay an amount of money, and then you go into like these different pods and have a VR experience. And I think they'll probably play it at that. They'll play it. You can hook your phone up to a set of VR glasses if you have them. So. Yeah, I'm kind of curious how they're going to roll it out. The thing with Hulu and Netflix and a lot of those places, you do one, and then they have it's a slightly different sort of release schedule than the networks and some of the things we're used to.
I guess they have to figure out a way to get the glasses in front of enough people.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were asking too, and I'm sure obviously they have a plan. And it's a really good show, and I think the VR thing it's funny because as a sort of film lover and TV lover and someone that loves the movie theater experience, I sometimes have a little grumpy old man in me where some new technology comes out, fears going to, make movie going obsolete or something, but people will still go to movies, right? And so as cool as the VR thing was, I was like, how good is this going to be? Is this going to make people not want to go to the theater anymore? The movie, it's so different than TV and filmmaking. It's a whole different visual experience. And I had never been on a VR set before. It's just completely different. A lot of it is what you imagine, which is a camera in the middle of a room with all these lenses on it, filming it, you're almost doing it like theater in terms of you're kind of doing it from the beginning to end of a scene. You don't pick up in the middle of a scene or you have to do another take. You do it from the beginning because every camera is getting everything at the same time. So there was a lot of just sort of starry-eyed, ooh, this is, the first time being on a set in general, which is kind of fun to have that pumped into your life a little bit and sort of keep you excited when you're doing something new like that.
Well, so we've mentioned you've done ABC, NBC this year. This is your at least second thing with Hulu, and then you've also got a movie that you just made for Netflix that was just released, right?
Yeah, Little Evil. We shot that in Cleveland at the end of last year. Adam Scott, Donald Faison, and Chris D'Elia, and it is a really funny horror comedy movie that Eli Craig did, and we just saw it a few weeks ago when it first premiered on Netflix. They had a little premiere party, and it came off really well. I mean, Bridget Everett's in it, and she's hysterical, and Evangeline Lilly is in it, and she's amazing. The whole group they got a good cast for that, and that was really fun. And I had never done a Netflix movie, and that experience is wonderful. And the tone of this comedy horror thing that Eli Craig is really good at. That came out very well. So I highly recommend it. Adam's hilarious as usual.
Cool. And then the other thing you mentioned to me before we started recording that I did not know is that you've started directing.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I started. When I came out to LA about 20 years ago, that was my intent. I was following the late '90s independent film scene. It was a very easy plan. You just work in a video store and then start directing movies. So
I hear that's still how it works. Oh, that's right. There's no video stores anymore. Never mind.
No video stores anymore. So I don't know how kids even imagine doing it now. But so that's really was my first love, and then I started acting and fell in love with that and found a path with that. It was always sort of developing and writing and getting projects going at the same time, but really kind of was reminded a couple of years ago how much I really wanted to just direct as well. And I'm obviously going to continue acting and everything, but I was invited to do the Sundance Lab as an actor for their directors lab. They'll bring actors in for a couple of weeks too to work on these projects with the directors that they bring in for the Sundance Film Lab. And that was just from a movie nerd like myself, that was like the mecca to go to this beautiful place in Utah where it's sort of centered around film love and spend 2 weeks working on projects with people and then just talking about movies. It reawakened that, and I started shadowing directors and taking directors to lunch and building my own little film school for myself, and made a short film and getting that around now to start directing. And hopefully we'll be able to direct some episodic television soon.
What was the film that you did, the short?
It's called The Talk. And it's played at a couple festivals, and I'm getting it out to a few more, hopefully. And with a short film, I'm kind of learning myself with the distribution. There are little outlets for short films here and there that I'll explore to get it out there more. But a lot was to sort of prove myself I could do it, and I'm really proud of it. And got addicted. Glad that also sort of was reminded how much I loved filmmaking, and really reawakened that passion. I'm kind of excited to hopefully have an opportunity to keep doing that.
I was going to say it's probably I don't know how this is going to sound, but so far, I mean, your looks haven't gone away, so you still have that going for you. But it's probably a really good thing in Hollywood to be able to do multiple things as you get a little older. And
oh, sure, it's for many reasons. I mean, I have a natural compulsion to do it, and now I'm kind of making an effort to do it. And also, practically speaking, you should diversify your portfolio, and it can get quite restless. As much as you hustle for acting gigs, sometimes it can be feast or follow, and it's nice to have other outlets during that time.
Cool. All right, I want to change gears on you.
Okay.
I got to ask you about a couple of your female co-stars over the years, because at least two of them have been fairly prominent in the news of late. The first I got to start with is Erin Hayes, who played your wife on Worst Week and got royally screwed by Kevin James recently on his new sitcom, Kevin something or other.
Right.
Now, do you, I mean, you two haven't worked together in several years, but do you still, is it kind of like, I can pick on my brother, but no one else can pick on my brother, Erin played your wife for a year, and now, when you see her in the news and you see somebody doing something bad to you, do you kind of get up your Irish, so to speak?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I don't know the details of that. of that particular case. I do know that Erin is regarded within the industry and with her fans and at large as a funny, talented, wonderful woman that will weather whatever storm this is. And I know actually that she's part of a show that was on my radar for a while that Brian Cranston was putting together, which is a wonderful show where she'll have an opportunity to do what we fans of hers know she can do really well. So I'm not again, I don't know the details of what happened on the Kevin James show, but I know that Erin will be just fine, and I hope there was nothing untoward there. You know, I'm not sure to what extent anyone was that was mishandled, and but you know what I always loved about Erin was that she, you know, if Worst Week would have gone on, I think we would have been able to do so much more with her character. I mean, I actually knew her work long before that. I'd seen her in sketch comedy and was always a big fan of hers. And then when she was, after Worst Week, when she was able to do Children's Hospital and other comedies like that, where she's really able to show her stuff, I think people saw what a talent she was.
Was she, I'm trying to remember, was it Guys Behaving Badly? Was that the series that she did after Worst Week? Or was it some?
Not sure.
I can't remember. I know she came on here with whatever that show was. I can't remember. Again, you know, kind of short-lived. But yeah, we just you know, we read about that. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, Kevin James has a new series. Erin Hayes played his wife on the show, and somewhere in the midst of the first season, they brought back the woman who played his wife on King of Queens. Yeah. And suddenly,
well, I also worked with on a show who's also talented.
Yeah, and nothing against her at all. But then when you hear over the summer or last spring that they're going to kill off Erin Hayes' character as the wife and bring on bring her back, it's just like, come on, that's just cruel. That just seems
I mean, it's again, I haven't been privy to the details on it, and you know, maybe I need to research a little bit more. So.
All right, I just figured I had to ask you.
Yeah.
So another actress that you have worked with, Alyssa Milano, who you starred opposite in Romantically Challenged, has been in the news in a big way in the last 48 hours as we're taping this in mid-October. And Alyssa, for people who don't know, was 9 years as Tony Danza's daughter on Who's the Boss, has been in a lot of TV. In more recent years, though, has really embraced being a wife, being a mom. She's become very political. And she, in response to the whole Harvey Weinstein sexual harassment, sexual abuse scandal of late, launched a campaign on Twitter, #MeToo, encouraging women who have been sexually harassed, sexually abused, to speak up. And it has just, it's taken off like crazy. I was actually getting a blood test this morning, and the news was on, the local news, the 24-hour local news channel, and they were talking about it. And I thought, well, how convenient that I'm going to talk to Kyle today. And I just wondered, I don't know, you know, that you keep in touch with any of these people, or whether it be Alyssa or Erin, but I wondered if what you knew of Alyssa from working with her during the run of Romantically Challenged, if it surprises you to see her becoming so pronounced as a political person, and to see what she's been up to with this.
Well, I mean, my experience with Alyssa was, I mean, obviously, and just to add to what you were saying, you know, in terms of her recent years, she's also a really prolific producer, as she helped create a comic book that called Hacktivist that is very popular and well known. That is, she's I think now producing into a television show. She's a producer. I think she's a businesswoman of the line of clothing, and so yeah, she and when I'm not surprised at all. When I met her, she was already a business person, was already one of the smartest people that I'd met out here, both in terms of her enlightened views on, I think, a lot of social and political matters, the industry that we're in. I learned a lot from her about the industry and how to conduct myself within it. So she's from my perspective, a pretty stellar not only performer but human being, and what she's been able to sort of communicate through social media is something that I think a lot of people are feeling right now, and I'm glad she's saying it. I mean, I think that there is a culture within our industry, and I think a lot of industries, as we know, that has to change in terms of what rich, powerful men think they're entitled to, and how they conduct themselves. So, and all men, frankly. So that need to sort of be aware that this culture has permeated for far too long. We need to stop it.
I'm not surprised to hear you describe her as a very smart woman, and she's prolific in a lot of different aspects of her life. It's been fascinating. You know, and maybe it's less so these days because of social media, but whereas 20, 30 years ago, you'd take someone who was a child star and you'd expect 10 years later to hear them in a you know, their life has gone into the crapper. But, you know, here's an example of someone who's really figured out, I assume from a distance, has figured out her business life, her private life, and even political life, and I was very impressed with that. So I figured since you're going to be here, I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Now, in a completely different way, I want to ask you about one more woman that you have co-starred with, and that is Hayley Atwell. And I thought of her because a couple of days ago there were some pictures on the internet of her at the I think at the BAFTA Awards. And once again, this woman just kind of completely takes my breath away. And I'm just wondering. And my wife has a girl crush on her. I mean, I have a crush on her, but you know that my wife is so interested in this woman. So I'm just curious. If there's anything you can tell folks who are Hayley Atwell fans what it was like to work with her, what she's like individually, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, consummate pro. I mean, I think that that whole set was really fun to be on. I mean, that was a period piece, so 80% of your job is done once you put the wardrobe on. And then it was the Marvel world, so you're just sort of dazzled by all the effects and fun stuff, and the budget, it was a big fun set to be on. And then because what we've discovered about the superhero world is when you populate it with great actors that are like trained theater, or it really enhances that world even more. And she's obviously an incredibly well-trained, professional, excellent actress who can do it all, really. I mean, from the action stuff to really quiet, nuanced, emotional stuff. It was that was an easy show to be on too. When you're working with people that are that good and when have their stuff together so well. And she had been living with that character for a while through the Captain America movie, so it was really coming in a world that had already been built, and then you just have to make sure you don't screw up the recipe.
You had some fight scenes in that series. Was that new to you, or had you done much of that before?
I haven't done enough, in my opinion. I'd love to do more. I mean, the only one I've done in a big way is Chuck. I played like a heavy Chuck once, and I remember being like, I was supposed to be this very trained, Krav Maga agent, and I was like, okay, so I'm probably gonna have to meet like for a week and a half before and do some training, and we'll have a really well choreographed fight scene, and there'll probably be some cables, and we'll do. And basically, I showed up. They're like, yeah, just when you punch him, don't really punch him, just. Make sure you don't get it too close to his face. I was half thought it was kind of cool. I get to kind of do my own choreography in a way, but also I was a little bit disappointed I couldn't get the full action training, the full Kill Bill experience. But I would love to do more. All actors, everyone, all of us really got into this because of Indiana Jones and Die Hard. That's pretty much all I really want to do. Tomorrow you said no, from now on. No more comedy. You just get to be in action movies. I'd probably take that.
Oh, I bet you would. Why not?
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Chuck. I just saw the other day that I'm not interested in The Handmaid's Tale. Have not watched it, but I saw a listing that Yvonne Strahovski, who starred on Chuck, is apparently on The Handmaid's Tale.
In the new season, or is
I don't. I'm not sure. I haven't been watching it. I just. But you mentioned Chuck, and I remembered seeing that somewhere. So, all right. So, final change of gears here. I want to talk to you a little bit about family. I don't know how many people realize this. Maybe we've mentioned it, but you are a husband. You're a dad. I think two boys.
Yes.
Right. What does having family, having a real family like Middle America thinks of family? How does that how does that keep you centered? How does that affect a guy making his living in Hollywood, where things are not always so family oriented?
Well, they are family oriented, and I think there's a misconception about raising families in a place like Los Angeles or New York. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from a small town in Indiana called Mishawaka. I have 4 brothers and sisters and a mom and a dad. I have a big, very middle-class Midwestern family, and I lived in the Midwest until I was 19 or 20 years old. And so, I've lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. So I have the perspective of both. And with family, most people out in Los Angeles, or many of us, are from other parts of the country. It's this amazing thing about Los Angeles that you get to meet people that had lots of different experiences, but many of whom had very similar to yours in terms of middle-class Midwest family. And if they weren't Midwest, it's still, the United States of America, there's a lot of similarities between the regions. And even though I think a lot of us are anxious about the differences right now between us and the United States, and I think they are big ones and some serious ones we have to talk about. There's a lot of similarities too, and I think too often there's some sort of separation or some other perception of folks living in Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York. So yeah, I mean, I'm a dad, and a husband, and a brother, and I have all those strong ties that everybody else does, and I love being a dad. And the boys are going through pretty good stages right now. One's going through an amazing stage of being pretty easy to deal with. The other one might be coming out of a difficult stage. We'll see. But they're both adorable, and I'm cherishing this time in my life.
And speaking of being a dad, I mentioned early on that your dad had recently passed. We had communicated a little bit before this, and so you kind of opened the door to kind of ask you about that. What, if you're comfortable with it, what are some of your finer memories of your dad, and maybe you want to share, talk a little about him?
Oh, he was he's the reason I fell in love with movies. My dad and my maternal grandfather both had big classic movie collections, and would just always sort of offhandedly or casually mention actors' names and directors' names. He wasn't a movie buff, but he just loved television movies. So I just knew names like Alfred Hitchcock or Jack Lemmon or Ellen Ladd. They were just names that would just be mentioned. When I would mention to my kids, to my friends in kindergarten, I would say, mention, Singing in the Rain. I think I showed my poster back there. Mm-hmm. My friends wouldn't know it. I thought it was normal that everybody had big movie collections and knew who Donald O'Connor was. So, but he just had a great, my family, we watched MASH and Moonlighting with two big, all 7 of us packed in the family and watching that stuff. He was also an anchorman for the first part of his career in the early 70s, and very much looked the part. He was very handsome. He looked very much like Ron Burgundy. And then after that was a known around town. He was sort of the face of this bank, a regional bank. He was a marketing director there, and did commercials and stuff. So he was not. And he would MC events and things. So he was a performer of sorts himself, and it was an amazing vocabulary. Knew a lot about history, and was a lovely little man. And unfortunately, he suffered from Alzheimer's for the last 4 years, and it finally escalated over the last 6 months, and it was a rather rapid decline, and so my family and I have been very active in trying to be part of a movement to help basically cure Alzheimer's and find better treatments and a better cure and preventative ways to to deal with what is a really, really awful disease.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. I didn't know what had happened, so yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But thank you. That's very nice of you to share that with you. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry. I've just been handed something. Excuse me.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a question that just came in from the internet.
Okay.
Which is amazing because we're not live.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway, a Missy Bornheimer of Calabasas, California, has sent in a question for you. I don't know if you know this name, but she says, I need to ask you, what was your favorite movie as a kid, and did you make your friends watch it?
That's funny that she should mention it. Yeah, as you see,
I've had a feeling. Yeah,
the Sing in the Rain poster behind me. Yeah, Sing in the Rain definitely was my favorite. It still is my favorite movie. And for I think my 5th or 6th birthday, I thought it'd be a good idea to make all my friends sit and watch it for 2 hours, which they did not prove to be as patient with it as I was as a young man. And yeah, I think my mom is referring to that. And then my mom and I danced to Sing in the Rain for at my wedding, actually.
Really?
So it's funny. There's certain things that when they are your favorite. Steve Martin is the other thing that I've been my favorite thing since I was 5. So for a piece of entertainment or an entertainer to be with you that long. I mean, I told people my name was Steve Martin for a year of my life. And I think the King Tut bit was like something I remember watching early on. And then all through high school and all through my snobby high school years. And I never not liked Steve Martin. He never went off my radar as one of my favorites. And Singing in the Rain's been the same thing. There's never been a moment in my life when that hasn't been my favorite piece of entertainment.
I tell you something about King Tut, then you'll appreciate this. The Saturday that he did it on Saturday Night Live, back in whatever that was, 76, 77, maybe 78, the following, I want to say Monday, so that was Saturday, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, he appeared live at Rutgers University at the Rutgers Fieldhouse, and I and a date saw him, and at the end, it was the first time he had performed it outside of Saturday Night Live.
Oh wow!
And the place just went absolutely nuts. It was just incredible to see that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites.
I love to see his shows. I mean, his stand-up is, and that book he wrote about it was really enlightening too. It can be a tough life, but his stuff still holds up.
Yeah, Bored and Standing Up.
Yeah.
Great book. Okay, so you do know this Missy Bornheimer woman?
Yes. Hi, Mom.
She's great. We have a lot of contact on Facebook, and I always enjoy her. So please give her a hug for me.
I will.
So, folks, listen. You can see Kyle Bornheimer all over your TV thanks to services such as Hulu and Amazon and Netflix. For some of his most recent recurring appearances, search out episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Casual. And you can never, ever go wrong by buying or downloading the complete first and only season of Worst Week, which I continue and my family, we watch it. It's like an annual thing,
Oh, that's awesome.
We have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation we watch every year, and every year we sit down and go through all the Worst Week episodes.
Oh, I love hearing that.
It's just wonderful. I wish we were in season 10 or whatever it would be now.
I know. Well, it's a 10-year anniversary coming up, and I have some. I have certain ambitions to try to convince some people to bring us back for like something. So I don't know.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Anything I can do.
I might call you up as a super fan to testify.
I think the only lead on the show was and I can't remember. It's the guy who played Erin's dad.
Kurtwood.
Yeah. Kurtwood's. Yeah. He's the only one that I still have not gotten on the show. Erin's been on. You've been on. Your mother-in-law. Your buddy from Perfect Couples.
Hayes.
Hayes MacArthur. So I'm just kind of weird about that show. I don't know what it is. Can people find you? I don't know. Can people find you? Do you want to be found online at all?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Kyle Bornheimer. And then Instagram I don't do as much, but it's Kyle Bornheimer 2075. And Twitter is, what is my Twitter handle? At Kyle Bornheimer. Yeah, right now, I kind of whatever. Didn't even know my Twitter handle. So, and then I have a podcast that we haven't done the second season for called Movie Court. And if you went to Twitter and went to @themoviecourt, that'll take you to the iTunes thing. You can watch, you can listen to that, and hopefully we'll do a second season here coming up soon if we can get our stuff together.
Cool. Well, I'll look that up. I didn't know about that one. I will look that up and add that to my Apple Podcast. Kyle, always a pleasure talking to you. You're very gracious with your time today. People may or may not realize that we lost the connection 6 or 12 times. So if folks made it this far and you notice that occasionally we seem to be a little stilted, it's because we had to go back and start over again with some things. But great to see you. Continued, good luck. My best wishes to your family. And again, thanks so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
Thank you. All right, Bob. See ya.
Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of fans of Worst Week, Perfect Couples, Romantically Challenged, Love and Lakin, Family Tools, Playing House, and Angel from Hell in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Hi, this is Rich Scheidner. And if you've ever wondered what it was like to be a stand-up comedian in the 1980s, I'm going to do you a big favor. Instead of billions of dollars for a time machine, you can just spend $24.95 and buy my new book, Kicking Through the Ashes, My Life as a Stand-Up in the 1980s Comedy Boom. It will save you money and give you thrills. It will take you there. Go to my website, richscheidner.com, go to amazon.com, and buy this book.
I am a weird, near stalkery fan on lots of people. Actually, when I was just at Universal Studios just this morning, and whenever I'm there, I'm always excited because that's where Andelman is. That's where Spielberg has his office, and I'll always sort of walk by there, and kind of sort of look and sort of dip into that area a little bit. And I never know what I'll do if he actually comes out, but I make it a kind of tradition whenever I'm on Universal to kind of walk by Andelman, no matter where I am on the lot.
Hey, you never know when, I might look out and go, you're Kyle Bornheimer. I knew you.
Well, he produced, DreamWorks was involved in She's on My League.
Huh?
And we actually did a table read at Andelman once, and he wasn't there, but he did see it. So somewhere along the lines, I have crossed Spielberg's path, which is neat to think about.